Let me ask you this. Do you order dessert? Hi, I'm Jason Bowers, financial planner, and welcome to my channel. So in today's episode, here on a beautiful Friday, having a cup of coffee out here in the sunroom. So if you hear my dog start barking or snoring, either one, just understand I'm completely aware, but that's the story of my life. I spend just about every day that I'm at home working with Woodson by my side. So yeah, back to my question. Do you order dessert? I tell you what, there's not much that I enjoy in my day-to-day life than going out to eat. Going to a nice restaurant, having a great dinner. I'm a sucker for a good ribeye. Do appreciate myself a nice glass of bourbon every once in a while. But I tend to sucker myself sometimes into ordering dessert, and we've all been there, right? So you're out, you're having a great meal. Maybe it started with some appetizers or that salad, and it's maybe one course too many. And then they come by with a dessert menu, or even worse, a dessert tray. And they ask, hey, do you want some dessert? Are we finished for the night? And sometimes against our better judgment, and we've all done this, we say yes, and we order something. And the reason why I bring that up is because it seems like a good idea at the time, right? But I tell you what, after the fact, in hindsight, very rarely is it a good idea. Most times, the juice wasn't worth the squeeze, right? Maybe it wasn't as good as you thought it was going to be. Maybe the portion was way too big, so you overate. There's been a few times where the portion seemed way too small. I wonder what I paid for. Sometimes you wish you could have talked to somebody because they would have talked you out of getting that dessert. Maybe you wish you could have polled, 5 people that had that dessert before to see what their experience was like, because maybe that could have steered you in a better direction. But at the end of the day, it seemed like a good idea at the time. But in hindsight, it wasn't. And far too many times in working with clients within their financial situation and putting their plan together, sometimes I'm not even introduced to them until after they've already made some key decisions. One of the most common of those decisions is our Social Security benefits. And a lot of times, people even delay retirement until age 67, for example. And I'll ask them, why is it your goal to retire at 67? And more times than not, they say, well, that's when I can turn on Social Security. So then I start to educate them on, all the different, benefits and options and things of that nature when it comes to Social Security. And that really changes their mind, or it gets them to consider some other concepts. It gives them a different way of thinking, a different perspective. But the challenge is when somebody's already made that decision, they've already turned on Social Security or whatever it may be, you can't put that toothpaste back in the tube, right? Just like you can't uneat that dessert once you realize, gosh, I would have made a different decision. Or had I known it was going to make me feel this bad or feel this stuffed or keep me up all night, I would have made a different decision. Well, you didn't know that information. But if you could have gotten that information prior to, again, it's impossible, but it's creating an analogy for me. If you could have chatted with 5 people who've had that dessert before and they all said, wow, it was tough to go to sleep. That was a lot of sugar and I was up past midnight. Well, I'm not going to sign up for that tonight, so I'm going to pass on dessert, or I'm going to make a different selection, a different choice based off of that information. And so the challenge when you're making those types of decisions is you don't always have the ability to poll a bunch of people who've already turned on their Social Security benefits and say, what would you do differently? But sometimes when we do choose to ask people those questions, and we talk to Uncle Bill, and Uncle Bill says, yeah, I turned my Social Security benefits on at a certain age, and I wanted to get my money out of the system, or I needed to turn it on as soon as possible, or I did that because my grandfather did that. And it presents a challenge because not everybody's situation is the same as yours. Your situation is unique. So doing what somebody else did doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to work out as well for you as it did for them. And that's if it worked out for them. You want to arm yourself. And I tell clients this all the time, arm yourself with as much information as possible and get some guidance. Get somebody outside of your household to help you make one of the most important decisions of your life. I'm not saying that dessert is one of the most important decisions of your life, but at the end of the day, the concept is still the same. If you had the opportunity to gather more information about the desserts on the menu, maybe you might choose one that's a little bit lower in sugar. Maybe you might choose a smaller portion size. So like myself, you don't feel compelled to eat all of it, even though you were full before you took your first bite. Look, my parents raised me, no food's left on the table. So it's been a detriment to me for most of my life. But with that being said, you might make a different decision. But if you did decide to order dessert and you had all that information, then you're going to feel confident in ordering it, knowing full well that even before it arrives, that it's probably going to be a good portion size for you. It's going to be something that you like, and you're not going to regret it. So that being said, how does that apply to our financial lives? I've mentioned Social Security a few times. You could probably throw pension decisions in there as well. But even the decisions around when to retire is something that when people give me an age, or they give me a goal of an age when they would like to retire, and I ask them why, they either struggle to come up with a reason, or the reasons simply aren't valid. Well, I need to hit 30 years at my company. Well, do you? I understand that maybe that might be when the maximum pension is available, for example. But if you could retire at 27 years and still hit all of your goals, would you consider doing that? And I'm surprised at how many people have never considered that in that particular example. There are times when people can retire earlier than expected, when a proper plan is put into place. But heaven forbid somebody hit that magical 30-year mark and they retire and they actually needed to work a little bit longer. But their goals and their decision-making process is based on something that sounded good at the time. Most of the people at the company hit their 30 years and retire. So I guess it's something that I should do. And it becomes a challenge when planning for people, when they have goals that they're passionate about, but they're not necessarily rooted in any type of education or understanding of how it's going to impact their specific situation. So that's why it's paramount to find somebody who is comfortable in dealing with client situations and planning for very important decisions like that. Because while you're challenged to make that Social Security decision, or you feel the pressure when deciding which pension option to take, or heck, even what to do with your retirement account once you retire or once you leave a job, find somebody who's a professional at doing that, who does that all of the time. There's a reason why when we get into legal problems, we consult an attorney. I have no idea what to do inside of a courtroom. I know to say Your Honor every time I address the judge. I know I need to stand typically when I'm talking, but other than that, I have no idea what's going on. So that is why I sit down with an attorney to help me through that process. And it's challenging from my perspective when we see how much other people seek help with other decisions in their life. Heck, I was debating getting back surgery because I have 2 herniated discs on my lower back from many years in the military and playing sports, and I guess I just have an old spine. 4 different opinions I got from different doctors before I made my decision. And that's just back surgery. I know a lot of people who've had back surgery, and they say it's the best thing they've ever done. But I've also talked to some people who say it didn't work. I talked to a gentleman, my orthopedic surgeon who was helping me rehab my shoulder, explained to me he had back surgery and in less than 6 months herniated one of the discs again. Then he said he had some cortisone shots and hasn't had any pain for 6 years. But he's also known some people had cortisone shots and they simply don't work. So I went through getting a lot of advice when making my decision about not pursuing back surgery. And I'm glad that I did. But it's amazing how even more important decisions like when to stop working for the rest of your life or what to do with your entire life savings, we just mirror what Uncle Bill did. Or we watch a YouTube video like this and take it as the gospel, and that's the only advice that we're going to get. Jason said to do X, so we're going to do X. It's about getting as much of that information as possible because we treat retirement planning like it's less important than next year's week-long vacation. We just simply don't give it the time that it's due. We work with somebody who is local in our community. It's the closest financial planner that I could find. Well, are they the best? Are they suited for you? Did you find the actual right person? Is it a good fit? Are they talented and experienced enough in your type of situation? I don't think we give the right credence to the type of professional that we use to help us with basically every dollar we've worked so hard to save, and with an important decision like retirement and all the other choices that come with that, with pensions and health benefits. And heck, some of us want to downsize. And what do we do with the equity in the home? There's a lot of different things that go into that retirement conversation. And when I bring it back full circle to the dessert, no, you're not going to sit at that table and call in a dessert professional. But at the end of the day, it would be nice to have some of the information that you find out after the fact when, before you order that dessert. Because if you knew how it was going to make you feel, if you knew how other people's experiences were with that dessert, you're able to now make that decision in confidence. And I tell you what, there is no more, there's not a much better feeling than making a decision with a ton of confidence. Could it still backfire? Absolutely. But the last thing you want to do is look back and say, I wish I would have done more. Had I known this, I might have made a different decision. I didn't quite do enough. There's many decisions where I've done a ton of research and the result has backfired, and that's completely okay. We're not perfect. We are, as humans, very perfectly imperfect. But you never want it to be due to a lack of effort or a lack of trying. I have an 18-year-old I've been trying to teach that lesson to for quite some time. It's okay to fail. It's okay to make the wrong decision, but you never want it to be due to lack of effort or lack of trying or anything of that nature. So I'll leave it with this. When you get that opportunity to make the decision on dessert, take a second, give yourself 5 seconds to think it through because you might make a different decision. Listen to somebody else at the table. Let them help guide you. But yeah, don't be looking for a dessert professional because they're always going to say yes to ordering dessert. And definitely don't call me because I'm the last person to talk you down off the ledge, because if I was there, I'd probably be ordering dessert too. I've got a sweet tooth the size of Wisconsin. But when it comes to more important decisions than just dessert, don't make that emotional decision. Don't necessarily feel the need to go with the crowd. Don't make it on short-sighted thought processes. Root it in education. Turn over every rock that you can. Find somebody who is skilled at helping people make those decisions, and get to a point where you know that you're going to be confident in the decision that you make, whether it is making that decision today or even postponing that decision. A confident decision is typically one that you're going to feel good about long-term, even if it doesn't pan out well, because you'll be able to look back and say, I did everything I could to make the right decision, and hey, it just didn't work out. So in the end of the day, when you're presented with those choices, make sure you get help. It's only going to make that decision-making process easier for you. And when you do look at it back in hindsight, you're going to be glad that you did. So thanks for joining me today, and I'll see you in the next video.